Welcome to the past, where you'll get information related to sports, video games, technology, music, and our all-time favorite ass of the week. Episode 154 of The Past is back. It's your host, BT. Was good. I feel like I ain't recorded in a long time, even though I recorded like literally a couple of days ago. But I'm your host, BT. Got a very heavy podcast today. I'm doing a lot of new things, trying out a couple new things here and there. Before we get started with the show, I always like to give my personal shouts, and then we always, I'm starting my trend, and I'll explain a couple of things, and then we'll get into the dance. The podcasts are uploaded on Spreaker.com. That is my hometown. That is where you can find every episode. And also, if you're looking to get into podcasting, I would definitely recommend to download Spreaker.com. It has become my go-to, my everything, my only thing when it comes to the podcast, at least. So if you want to check out any previous episodes, you can go to Spreaker.com/Brytay Podcast. That's Brytay Podcast. I'm still working on getting the information to be switched, but right now I'm just kind of like, hey, everything's working. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's a lot of web maintenance, which I don't mind doing, but just, you want to make sure you have everything up and up if you make that type of a change. And also, if you are looking at investing in a microphone, I personally would recommend the Blue Yeti microphone. I've told a friend of mine about it. I've actually told a couple of people between the Blue Yeti and the Snowball. Snowball is not bad. I know a lot of people use the Snowball and they kind of use their computer as like the headphone option. But I've learned with the Yeti, it has the headphone jack. You just kind of plug and go. And also for me, it's been a benefit because if I have someone else on the show, I can just connect the splitter and we're good to go. So we're on episode 154. If you did not have a chance to listen to relationships and dating in episode 153, you definitely want to check that episode out with a lot of information being shared. So I usually, and I always like to start off the show with the daily, meaning of the number. I didn't do 153 because, like I said, we did 153 as an improv, so I really didn't have that factored in. But it's all good. Like we make a good show and we do big things. So the meaning of 154 is number 154. The main thing stuck on your mind these days. Is it what you see when you close your eyes to sleep? Regarding the meaning of 154, so I'm not going to the intro we kind of run with each time. To track down this angelic message so you understand it well, we will break down the number 151. I'm sorry, 154. Shows how much I drink too much. Number 1 is the number of conquerors, the number of those who have gone ahead and won the battles they have faced. This is also the number connected to new and fresh beginnings that entail choices, decisions, and hard work. You will experience a lot of changes in your current life, and you are required to remain positive. A positive attitude will enable you to think with clarity, act with moderation, and create your ideal reality as you have always envisioned it. Angel number 5 is the number that signifies your persona. Your angels are encouraging you through this number to be real to yourself. You are required to acknowledge your strengths and tap yourself on the back. You're also required to face your failures and learn valuable lessons from them. There is no time to forget. Angel number meaning 154 says that you will gain more by forgiving. I'm not sure did they just not bring number 4 into the mix? Okay, it's coming up. Sorry. Angel number meaning 154 says that you will gain more by forgiving yourself for the past mistakes and seeking to use them for your growth. You will need traits like individuality, independence, decisiveness, humility, versatility, flexibility, and to be self-motivated. Number 4 is here to remind you that you need to work hard at achieving your dreams and goals. Do not give up regardless of how far away your dreams may seem. Your angels are ready to help you with angelic number 154. They are only waiting to hear you ask for their assistance. You have to welcome them to welcome this journey with you. Once you do that, you will feel the burden become lighter and realize that the journey has suddenly become enjoyable for you. Remember to maintain optimistic energies always and to give thanks for every step you make. So it's ironic that they said that part at the end, because that was a challenge that I set out on my personal social media, as far as every day that you take, just say thank you. Because not even on the fact that a lot of people aren't able to get up and walk, like that's one tangent or one way of looking at it. But there are those who aren't able to even function in general, let alone have the thought of wanting to walk. So each day or each moment that you have on this earth, or each divine moment that's provided to you, there's a purpose of that moment. And sometimes we spend more energy not putting our time into those moments because we want to wallow and get upset and go through our emotions about things that may or may not be going well. And trust me, it's not easy. Like, I'm sitting here, y'all probably like, well, you're saying it like everything's easy. It's not. If I were to sit here and say that it was easy, I'd literally be lying to myself and fooling myself into thinking otherwise. There are days that I hit my wall, but I also know I have to get back on track. And you got to find that way to retract and retool yourself to just focus on what's important. And sometimes it's usually people around you. It's life. It can be anything. So I'm leaving you all with that for the start. I know that's like, wait, you just gave us like this whole plethora of knowledge like 6 minutes into the show, and you haven't even talked about like what's going on in the sports and tech world. But I wanted to at least start with that first, because that's a true statement, or a true testament as far as our lives and just our transitions. And I want to say it's like the worst segue, but as I always share each week, if you are looking for help, if you are in a crisis, if you have anything going on, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or 1-800-799-7233, or you can go to www.thehotline.org. I have made business cards. I am going to start promoting my business cards heavily. If you want to call me and you need to talk, I don't care. If you need to email me and you don't want to have anyone know that you're calling, like, sometimes I don't think we realize the importance of how critical it is to like reach out to someone and talk about whatever it is that's going on with us, because we carry ourselves like everything's great, but in reality it's not. And the tough part, the even more stringent part about it is people who know you well enough are going to know when something's going on. And I'm just sharing this with everyone. I don't know. Today's podcast is just, I got a different energy about a lot of things, just from life and just transitions and just everything being the way it is. So I'm just sharing it and just kind of talking just to get everyone to know, like, don't ignore the fact that you're going to have moments and times where you're going to quit. We all do. But also, like, when it's your time to shine, or it's your time to step up, show out, bring it. Because just like you're quote unquote attempting to bring it, there are others who are bringing it 10 times harder. And times that you are seeming like you're at your lowest, there are those who are going through things much worse than you are. So I just want to kind of break in with that story, and especially with the domestic violence hotline. Like, if you need any help, like, let someone know, or don't come around me because I'm gonna know or gonna have an idea, because I've been getting senses with certain things, and it's not been intentional. It's just been the way it is, and I'm just gonna call it like I see it. But I always like to give that message. Like I said, I'm giving that message every week during my personal podcast shows. Like when I do April, I won't be starting off with that portion, but I will have that to blend in on my Tuesday shows. Also, local businesses. I'm gonna tell y'all now, the more businesses I get, the more I can blend them in between shows. Right now, I'm always gonna share. Like I said, if y'all want some good Southern food, Heavenly Cafe, A Taste of Heaven, or Heavenly Cafe presents A Taste of Heaven RVA. They're located at Virginia Center Commons Mall. I'm overdue for going to make a run. I just haven't gone because schedule change, life change, transitions. It is what it is. But 10101 Brook Road, Glen Allen, Virginia 23059. Vernetta Winston, Jarvis Green, and Charlene Saunders. They'll get you right. Like, believe me, they don't. It's not no kind of sort of thing with them with food. Like, whatever you're trying to get, like, just go check out the menu. You'll find something that you enjoy. And if you're looking to contact them at the store, it's 804-266-2509 and 804-433-9954 if you want to contact mobile. And also, if you want to send an email, if you have any inquiries, any questions regarding them, it's a taste of heaven RVA at gmail.com. And also, a friend of mine who is doing her business for cleaning, it is Peachy Clean, and that is spelled Peachie, not Peachey, as most people look at. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm gonna just take my dyslexic card and just trash it. Peachy is normally how most people spell Peachy, but they spelled it Peachie, Clean RVA LLC. It is processed. It is a cleaning specialist company. The person who's running it, personal friend of mine who I've met with a couple of times and know through social media. Sherry Winston will get your house right, get your life right. If you got anything, you need to get some things cleaned around the house. Residential and commercial cleaning. You can reach out to her and get rates. They have their phone number is 804-726-0366. And also you can also email at peachycleanrva@gmail.com. And again, that's Peachie, Clean RVA. Just to kind of give an added overview for them. They do have a Facebook page. If you search for Peachy Clean RVA, you'll be able to get to their page on Facebook, and they have a like page. So that's, the best way to get to them. I'm going to say this once, and I probably will be reminding people on multiple shows as this all occurs. If you're wanting to get your business out there, I'm not saying that I got multiple connections that can get you in the right hands, but if it's something that you're doing and you want others to know that you're doing it, send me a request, passpodcastbt@gmail.com. I definitely am trying to get more local businesses out there because a lot of times we don't know what other people are doing until it's brought to the masses. I've been seeing a couple podcasts. The Cool Kids podcast is here. Single in the City podcast, I've seen them going down. There's another podcast here in Richmond. I can't think of it offhand, but if you're doing something and it needs to be known, like I'm on a different wavelength. If there's a chance or an opportunity to get exposure, you may as well get it now. And of course, I would get my daily airplane flight to come into town, but I'm not on it, so I'm a little upset. We're gonna let that happen. Just give it a second. All right, we're gonna let that cap be what it was. And we're at my favorite / weirdest time of the year. And I only say weird because it's a no-win situation, but it's one of those things where I've been doing them for years and I never expected to change. But it is now officially March Madness season. And I am here to tell you all that I will probably get grief and slack for what is about to come, but I already know what time it is, so I'm prepared. And that is the tournament brackets have been released. Teams are working their magic to get, individuals are working to get their teams as they feel to the top. I'm doing something different this year. Well, I try to do it each year, but this year I definitely am invested in doing it. And that is, I'm doing 2 brackets. So I'm doing one bracket where I have Kansas winning, and my other bracket is my random if Kentucky were to win bracket. But it's ironic because I'm doing 2 brackets on both. Well, the Kentucky bracket, obviously I got them winning. But on the Kansas bracket, I have all of the 5 seeds making it out of the first round except Kentucky, who's the 5 seed. And they're playing Davidson, and I think it's because I feel like they're not gonna take Davidson seriously. So I'm riding that wave and letting it kind of be what it is. I have some random upsets here and there as far as I got UVA in the Final Four. Out of the top four, the four number one seeds, I only have two going. That's Kansas and UVA. I actually got Kansas and UVA going to the championship. UNC, I feel like will make another run. Duke, I carried Duke as best as I could. I actually got Duke getting upset by Michigan State. I don't really. I mean, you can call it an upset. Just don't call it a comeback. I'm redoing rap verses, knowing I can't. My surprise upset, maybe Missouri upsetting Xavier. The toughest part is we don't know how Missouri is going to play, strictly because Michael Porter Jr., we got a glimpse of him in the SEC tournament, but we don't know if, when it comes to the March Madness, if we're going to get the same Michael Porter Jr. To Kansas, like I said, Kansas. So, and I feel like I did this last year, but I'm going to do it again this year. I'm sorry, not Kansas. When doing a tournament bracket, it's always a challenge, and it's always like the easy way to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a bracket. I'm going to just chalk these teams on down and send them on through X, Y, and Z, no problem. The disadvantage of the battle behind that is there are teams and there are moments where some teams just aren't going to be at that next level or up to par with playing their best basketball. And sometimes we see that, sometimes we get that, other times we don't. Like I said, I briefly mentioned it, but I want to make sure I give these teams their attention. Tonight and tomorrow are what we always call our playing games, and they actually start in a couple of hours. LIU Brooklyn is playing Radford at 6:40, and then St. Bonaventure is playing UCLA at 9:10. What makes it tough for me with these games is like, okay, even if St. Bon or UCLA wins, congratulations, you get to play Florida. I noticed this year, except for the games tomorrow, the one seed. So one of them is an 11 seed playing, and the other one is a 16 seed playing. 16 seed playing. So it's like whoever wins between North Carolina Central or Texas Southern, congratulations, you get to play Xavier. Could be a good game. Depends on how good your dance is. When it comes to March Madness, and when it comes to seeing teams play, it's always about which team puts on that glass slipper and becomes a Cinderella. If I were to really look at any teams or any matchups this year right away, there's really not a solid, okay, this is a definite Cinderella story. And the only reason I say that is because, and this is what I was talking about before. So most cases when people fill out brackets, it's a term that you'll hear used called chalk, where you basically say, okay, this team these teams should be able to beat these teams, and there shouldn't really be too many upsets. Certain upsets you can expect. 9 beating an 8 is a possibility. But it's also, even if a team is ranked as a 9 or 8 seed, they're put in that position based on either being an at-large bid or if they made a good run in the finals in March Madness. So I'm just gonna let Plains be great today because y'all just trying me. Kansas, like I said, Kansas. I'm emphasizing on Kansas this year strictly because it's a tough spot as far as you look at a player, and I'm going wild with this, but I'm bringing it home for its intended purpose. Kansas has one of the best players in college basketball, in Trevor Graham. Trevor Graham's not going to be a high pick in the NBA draft. It'll kind of be, and I feel bad to put this as a comparison, but it's going to be Frank Mason deja vu. Because they already have in the forecasted drafts for this upcoming season, that he's like a mid to late second round pick. Despite him having a pretty solid career at Kansas. It's almost like you're being punished for not leaving school early. But then there are a lot of kids this year who I noticed are leaving school early, and they are not really gaining the benefits of going to the NBA. Like Trayvon Duval, more than likely Trayvon Duval is a one and done. I know this is, like I said, this is early talk, We don't know what players or what teams may or may not do. We know last year, and it was kind of ironic because not Duke. Kentucky played UCLA early in the season. UCLA won that game. Everything was great. Fast forward, Kentucky played UCLA again. This time, Kentucky won. As soon as Kentucky won the match, Lonzo Ball didn't even hesitate. Yeah, I'm going to the NBA. We already knew he was going anyway, but it was just more obvious. All right, I got the loudest container for water, so I'm not going to kill myself. We're going to make this a lot easier. We just going to go ahead and be sipping tea randomly because that's just where I'm at. But as far as players this year, there are a lot of players you're going to be prepared to see go to the NBA. First one that I can name right offhand without even hesitating is Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton is gone. There's no reason for him to stay at Alabama. Like he's playing the role of the college basketball run to get to the NBA. I feel like Petty may leave, but if I was him, I would stay a year or two or transfer. Who knows? I'm not sure. But there are a lot of players. Like I said, I know I'm supposed to be giving you all like the juice and dirt of March Madness, but you really can never say how things go until after the first week finishes. Like for instance, I'm gonna blow a lot of people's mind. I got Montana beating Michigan, and I know that's probably gonna be very random, but for some reason I don't feel like Michigan's gonna take them serious. Part of me wants to put Providence over Texas A&M, but I like Texas A&M. Houston is the dark horse in a sense too, because they're playing. I mean, they had a tough match against I can't remember who they played because the game they played in Sunday night was huge as far as on Sunday because they made it to the finals in their tournament. And that's like them making it to the finals kind of secured their spot for making it. There was a lot of talk that I think it was Arizona State got not snubbed, but they got kind of lowballed as far as for Pac-12. Pac-12 got a pretty good amount of teams in. ACC showed out as usual. The SEC got 8 teams in, which was a huge shocker, but not really. I mean, every matchup or every run just comes down to what team hits the right stride at the right point. I got Texas Tech getting upset. Not gonna lie. I don't, Stephen F. Austin may show up. They may lay an egg, but I mean, trying to pick teams based on just who they're playing, breaking down like records and how they got to the tournament. It's doable, but it's a tall order. Like you just have to kind of know. You got to know a little bit about college basketball, but you also got. You got to know a little bit of college basketball, but you also just like have to make your call as you see fit. So we talk about we're talking about the tournament. Like I said, if you want to look at the bracket as of right now, it's of course bare bone dry. There will be updates tonight based on a couple of matches, but it'll be more attentive next week. Once next week, as I call it, once the first 2 waves of games have come and gone, and the smoke is cleared from that, and we're sitting with the Sweet 16, you'll know. And I can tell y'all right now, next Tuesday, I will probably have thrown my tournament bracket in the trash or just deleted the app from my phone because I'll be over it, because that's just how I am. I'm used to it. It's gone that way for years. And I just don't even get surprised or bothered by it. It's just usually those certain teams that I'm like, I just need y'all to just continue your push. That's all I need. So we now get to what I would like to call the financial crises known as college basketball. Because a lot of people really don't think about numbers like this. I am, because and I'm saying college basketball, but we'll say college sports as a whole. It was presented that the NCAA surpassed $1 billion in annual revenue for the first time in history. Gee, I wonder why. An audited financial statement released by the NCAA on Wednesday showed the governing body of college athletics generated nearly $1.1 billion in revenue during the 2017 fiscal year. Steve Berkowitz of USA Today passed along details from the statement, which revealed a $105.1 million operating surplus. It's the first time the NCAA has surpassed $1 billion in revenue. The update comes as the association faces a crisis involving college basketball players allegedly being provided impermissible benefits and preferential treatment, which has renewed calls to pay student athletes to decrease the allure of under-the-table payments. Pat Ford and Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports reported details of the wide-ranging scandal after reviewing documents from ASM Sports Agency, which alleged payments and other benefits given to players and their families connected to at least 20 Division I programs. Among those listed are some of the historically dominant teams in the sport, including Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Michigan State. They are perennial championship contenders and frequent landing spots for the top recruits in the country. Acting U.S. Attorney June H. Kim referred to the situation as the dark underbelly of college basketball in September when announcing the arrest of 10 individuals in the case following an FBI investigation, per Shakar Peled of CNN. Meanwhile, NCAA President Mark Emmert told Ralph D. Russo of the Associated Press last week the organization would consider an Olympic model where players could receive money for endorsements, but he doesn't believe member schools are interested in paying athletes directly. I haven't heard any universities say they want to change amateurism to move into a model where student athletes are paid by universities and universities are negotiating with agents for their relationships with the school, he said. I would be surprised if the Commission to Reform College Basketball came forward with that kind of recommendation. ESPN Jay Bilas, an outspoken critic of NCAA's stance on paying players, used the latest release to further his point. He mentions, remember, college sports doesn't make any money. Oh, and this is just the NCAA tournament. The members make billions more from media deals, apparel deals, licensing deals, etc. And the money keeps going up. The financial statement shows the NCAA distributed $560.3 million to Division I schools during the 2017 fiscal year. College sports is not a cheap product. Let me let you all know how strongly I feel about this. The product that the NCAA presents or provides is not an inexpensive product. It is college sports. And I'm not just putting this solely on basketball. I am not solely putting this on football. I could even go as far, because I feel like it's considered as athletic, but don't hold me to this, because I believe you get scholarships for participating. Cheerleading. These events bring in money. What benefits them the most is sponsorship. Sponsorship and licensing. When they show, and we're at that point, so we have to talk about it. March Madness, when the Final Four comes, when you're getting near the Final Four, they promote whatever that ladder, I can't even think of the name of it offhand, but the ladder company, you're going to hear about them. Yeah, this ladder is what we use and we have to climb up and get our championships and da-da-da-da-da. Great. No problem. I am here for it. I am all for it. I am with you. I'm rocking with it. But if the NCAA is making this money and they just sitting on it, where is it going? Where can it go? Even more, and even a stronger thought, think of coaches. When a coach leaves a team and goes to another school and they pay him, how is he getting that money? Because you can pay a coach whatever, but you can't pay a student. Because the student is a student athlete. And it's amateur. The NCAA doesn't want to deal with it too heavily, strictly because, and this is me just on my personal tangent or rant about this. They don't want to deal with this or really look at it strictly because in doing so, they're addressing what has gone on for years. I talked about this with my roommate. I'm having this conversation with y'all. If you know TV, if you remember the life, Blue Chips. Blue Chips exposed this story back in the early 90s. Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway. I'm sitting here wanting to say Brian Reeves, but I don't think that was who the third guy was who was in Blue Chips. But you have these young men who are getting an opportunity to play a sport. And it's important to look at because what people don't realize in that movie is Blue Chips was bigger. Like the story that Blue Chips was portraying was beyond just athletes who could play. It was also about the mere fact that when you're going to a college, but like the recruiting talent, let me make sure I word this correctly because y'all know I'm a derp. The recruiting process now is a little different from how recruiting was done in the late 80s, early 90s. We'll push it into 2000. It was mainly like, this is a blue chip. This is a top notch. This guy. Like they had that ranking down for college players back in the day. Now you have social media, you have the internet. Now you're a 5-star recruit or you're a 3-star recruit, but you're still getting offers from top schools such as a Kentucky. Like no one really understands Kentucky's program. And I'm saying this not just as a Kentucky fan, because I'm not really a huge fan of Calipari to a T, but I get what Calipari is doing because he's utilizing the system. When he was at Memphis, he utilized the system. When he was when he was at UMass, he utilized the system. Granted, there wasn't really as strong of a system back then, but with Kentucky and Memphis, you had the one and done rule. Derrick Rose is part of the one and done class. If anyone does not remember that, go back and do your research. And I'm not just saying that, just throwing numbers out there, but that was the first class. It was Derrick Rose, Michael Beasley. I can't think of any other names, but those are like the two big names. And now you have guys who, such as John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Anthony Davis, Nerlens Noel. Like, I'm naming a lot of guys who went to Kentucky who were like, I'm leaving after a year. And it's like, you're not developed or ready to go. But they know, and this I'm giving all of that because, you know, I always have to bring it full circle. I'm naming these guys because when they were at the college level, you're not getting paid. So if you got an agent talking to you when your team loses in the tournament and say, hey, if you go to the draft, Willie Cauley-Stein, if you go to the draft, you might be a top 10 pick. Just think about it. You go back in the back, you may have an emotional moment. You process your thoughts, you gather everything together, and you say, you know what? That NBA option ain't looking too bad. Especially even if I don't become a lottery pick, I know someone's going to pick me. Because there are a lot of players who, even if they may or may not feel like they're going to get picked, they'll still give that chance or take that opportunity because now with the rules, and the NBA rules have changed to the extent of, okay, you're deciding you want to go to the NBA? Cool. We'll let you go. If you don't have an agent, you can go back to school. I sense and I am feeling, and I'm again, let me emphasize. I'm only talking college basketball because this is all related to college basketball primarily because that was a big story that came about. But football's not off the hook either. Football, they make money for They make a lot of money. Like, let me finish. I'm gonna finish the basketball, and then I'm gonna bring up a football conversation because I'll tangent in a second. With players coming out of college, going to the NBA, they're getting the money. The money's there. If you're a rookie, that rookie contract might not seem like a lot, but after 3 years, oh, this team might pay me. Oh, that team's gonna offer me more. I'm gonna go ahead and check out what they're doing, make a move. Tying it back to college football, because I don't know if this is the case with March Madness, but I can't really confirm or deny because I've not really heard this story too heavily. But in college football, if your team makes it to a bowl, certain bowls, because of how much money they make from hosting and processing that bowl, okay, I hope they come to the door. From processing or having that bowl, they get different events. You gotta love people. I'm sorry. If they didn't come the first time, if they're not making that money from, like, the bowl itself is going to present money as far as having all of this what we would call today swag. So you may get headphones, you might get t-shirts, shoes. It's different things that they buy for you for these events or for these tournament, for playing in this game, in this bowl. One year, I remember they mentioned, they were like, kids got like Beats by Dre headphones. Beats by Dre headphones are not cheap. You're talking to someone, obviously, I talk about it on the podcast. I wear a pair. I didn't outright buy mine. I don't outright buy headphones. I can't. I don't outright buy these type of headphones. Like speakers, gadgets, things that kids truly and honestly would not be able to afford being in college. But because Alabama makes it to the tournament, let's give the Alabama players some merchandise and apparel of Alabama based, or just different little knickknacks and things like that. If it gets to the point where they start giving away cars, I might go back to school. All right. So we know that they're making money, and the NCAA is making money moves, as we like to call it. One team, and before I give this story, I'm doing a forecasted or projected story because it was talked about last week, but I feel like it's just a matter of if and when. Tubby Smith will likely be fired from Memphis. I'm sharing this story for a reason. Number one, he's one of the few black coaches that we hear about or know about that's really been making an impact in college basketball. If you go back during the VCU run, Anthony Grant, phenomenal coach. He did his thing at VCU. He went to Alabama, had a decent run. You knew about him more so because he was assisting Billy Donovan at Florida. Avery Johnson's at Alabama. Scandal team. Sorry. And I'm like I said, I give you, as I tell y'all all the time, I'm giving you stories and I'm giving you information to kind of prepare you for full circle why I'm giving this information. You had Avery Johnson involved in the scandal. We don't know if he's going to be at Alabama much longer. Who's to say? And it's ironic to me because with the Brooklyn, at the time, New Jersey Nets, he had a decent team. When he was at Dallas actually had a winning record and they fired him. Mark Jackson, we always ignore Mark Jackson with Golden State. There's nothing against Steve Kerr. Let me put this on the record. Let me say this on this podcast. I have no issues with Steve Kerr as a coach. That being said, the championships that were won were thanks to Mark Jackson's team building. That team would not be anywhere near close. Let me also add, no Kevin Durant. We're talking about just the core, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. Because Klay Thompson had unmet potential. Steph Curry had unmet potential. They played and they brought it. That's why they made all-star appearances. Mark Jackson was the reason for that. So I'm giving all those stories. I'm giving college and NBA coaches. Tubby Smith could possibly be let go at Memphis. I mention him strictly because he was with Kentucky. He won a championship as Kentucky's coach. They didn't really get back to that winning culture. Billy Gillispie got there after him, struggled. I think it was another coach that was there after him, struggled. Obviously, Calipari came in, everything got fixed, quote unquote. So now, with Tubby possibly being on the axe, like I said, all the coaches that I mentioned were African American coaches. Our latest victim, and I feel bad using the term victim, but our latest hit the road jack is Kevin Ollie. That might be a good idea to do a hit the road jack. Hit the road jack will be referring to anyone who's either about to leave or something like there's some form of leaving involved. Like, for instance, right now, if I can remember correctly, I believe the Memphis Grizzlies are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. I don't think they'll be able to make it. So hit the road jack, Memphis, hit the road jack. It's been real. We appreciate your time and your effort as a team, but there are other teams who looks like they wanted more, and it was kind of obvious that it was going to go that way with them strictly because when they shut Michael Conley down, that gave me everything I needed to know with that team. And let me just double check because I want to be sure y'all know I'm all about proper information. Yeah, they have 18 between them or Atlanta. One of those two teams I can easily see they'll hit the road jack. But UConn men's basketball team, and before I continue, because I want to be fair, the women's bracket was released, and UConn girls is the overall unanimous 1 seed. The only way I see UConn losing is if they just play flat one game. But UConn should kind of coast through. Gino Auriemma, you do your thing. I will always say, rest in peace to Pat Summitt. But UConn and Tennessee was a rivalry in itself. Long tangent, blah, blah, blah. I know I was like way off course, but I wanted to get all that out before we continue. But UConn has parted ways with Kevin Ollie. As the school announced, it has initiated disciplinary procedures to fire the head coach. After they lost in the opening round to SMU in the American tournament, his contract was being terminated for just cause. It is unfortunate that this decision became necessary. David Benedict, who's the AD, stated in a statement, as with all of our programs, we hold men's basketball to the highest standards. We will begin a national search immediately to identify our next head coach. They will likely get a coach after the tournament. If you know basketball, that's always what happens. Like after teams have kind of fallen off, or as far as what they are doing for March Madness, or depending on how NIT runs go, that'll be when that next search comes. The school announced in January that it was the subject of an NCAA investigation, but did not provide specific details. Hearst, Connecticut media cited unidentified sources saying the inquiry is related to recruiting. The men's basketball program has a proud history and a tradition of excellence. University President Susan Herbst said, "Our goal above all is to ensure we have a program that UNC Nation can be proud of, including our students, alumni, fans, and all our committed supporters." One day I'll learn how to read. Y'all know I'm gonna say that every week. Ollie helped lead the program to a national title in his second season at the helm in 2014, but the Huskies have gone to the NCAA tournament once in the past 4 years. I'm gonna talk about that in a second too. The 45-year-old played for Jim Calhoun in the early 1990s. I was about to say 1900s. 1990s, and spent more than a decade as a journeyman in the NBA. After retiring in 2010, he joined Calhoun's staff as an assistant coach and became the interim head coach 2 years later after Calhoun retired, largely due to health issues. Ollie finished 20-10 in his first season, a year which the Huskies were ineligible for the NCAA tournament due to poor academics. UConn won the national title in 2014 behind Shabazz Napier, but the Huskies have been nationally irrelevant since, going to the NIT in 2015, barely making the NCAA tournament in 2016, and not making the postseason in 2017. They finished the year They finished this season 14-18. Passing over the torch. We're going to talk about that first and foremost. So Jim Calhoun, if you all may or may not know, Jim Calhoun ran a very thorough program. If you remember the game, as they call it, the six overtime matchup between UConn and Syracuse. Wow, where do I begin? Kimber Walker's time to shine. Khalid El-Amin, Rip Hamilton, like those eras of basketball, Charlie Villanueva, we can thank Jim Calhoun for all of that recruiting and everything that came from that run and that time. Father Time was winning. Calhoun stepped down. Kevin Ollie came in. Kevin Ollie was coming in to a already recruited team. Now, this is important to share because it's similar to what I talked about with the Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr thing. When you come in as a coach, and this is minutia to some, but this is relevant to others. If you come in as a coach, you're coming in utilizing the recruits who were already there. So you're mainly working with their recruits while you're trying to bring your recruits in. Your recruits coming in is going to be important. Why are they important? I'm glad you asked. Because your recruits can factor in whether you have a job or not. And I know that's like a mean way of saying it, but it's true. It really is true if you understand basketball, if you understand college basketball. In the NBA, it's an open roam, open free for all. So if you are a coach and you have players that are working or not working on your team, you can get rid of folks. You can kind of mess around with the puzzle and make it work for your advantage. Okay, cool, great, no problem. In college basketball, it's either transfers, walk-ons, and or recruits that you get through Ball is Life, Hoop Journey, Overtime, Baller Visions. I know I'm naming all of the video sensations because that's the new trend now. When it comes to you recruiting in basketball, I can't say the same in football, but primarily in basketball, a lot of it is highlight based. We really didn't know anything. No one had a clue what the hell a Chino Hills was until we heard about Lonzo Ball. And Lonzo Ball had a good junior year, but we didn't talk about his junior year. We really didn't know anything about them. But his senior year came, it was the Ball family. It was Lonzo, LeVar, LaMelo, LiAngelo. It was the whole family all getting attention and getting shine. And I want to, like I said, I'm giving names and I'm just giving general information. I'm not knocking any of that. I'm just giving that to tie into this point. Thanks to how he played or how good the Ball family went, all three brothers pretty much had commitments to UCLA. Now, 1 out of 3 have gone, but, well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. 2 out of 3 have gone. 1 out of 3 actually played a full season. And one never even put a jersey on. One never put a jersey on. One couldn't keep his hands in his pockets. Or he put them in his pockets at the wrong time. One of the two, whatever, however you want to pin it. I say all of that and I share all of that because recruiting plays its part into a career of a coach. Roy Williams, Bill Self. Even Shaka Smart right now, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, yeah, he's in a struggle with Texas. Mohamed Bamba's gone. I feel like the other point guard, he'll be back. Like I said, I'm jumping back to the tournament bracket a little bit, but this is just kind of to make the point. You come in and you work with the recruits that were already there, and you make it work, but then you have to do your recruiting. Your recruiting and who you can get is going to impact your job. And I mentioned this, I've said this a couple of seconds ago, but I'm saying it again because it's very relevant. If you are a recruiter in Virginia and you can't get Virginia talent, something's wrong. Just going to say it like it is. If you are recruiting, and And as a matter of fact, because we're gonna go there, because I'm very blunt and very honest in looking at it like this. If you look at the recruiting for your big states, California, Texas, New York, getting the and I'm my bad, I don't want to forget Florida, because Florida produces some very underrated sports talent, basketball talent. If you can't get your own recruits in your own backyard, something is wrong. There's really something wrong. It's not hard, especially like going back to Florida, like New York. You had Isaiah Washington right in your backyard. He went to Minnesota. I will say one thing though. Isaiah Washington is not leaving Minnesota this year. If he's smart, he's going to stay, because the NBA is going to body him. The NBA is a different speed, and I think sometimes people who watch basketball don't understand it, because they just look at it as like, oh, I mean, if you played in college, you should be good, and people playing in the NBA. And it's like, no, not necessarily. Lonzo's going through his bumps and bruises. Brandon Ingram went through his bumps and bruises. Even with Julius Randle being in the league for 4 years. 4 years. A full college career. He's going through his bumps and bruises. Because right now he would be a senior, if I'm remembering correctly. He would have been a senior at Kentucky this year if he stayed. The money calls though. Can't stop the money. So that's the story I'm giving with that. Kevin Ollie didn't really. I mean, he did things how he did them. It went the way it did. Some of it was out of his control, but in reality, I mean, then anytime that there are allegations of scandals or investigations that have to be involved with your school, if you're the face of the school, yeah, you might as well go ahead and start to prepare. And to add insult to injury, your team's not winning. Like when you don't, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna let the story go. If your team is winning, no one's gonna make any concern. The names that I mentioned earlier: Roy Williams, Coach K, Bill Self, John Calipari, any of those big schools, Tom Izzo, like we went into this story a couple weeks ago. Tom Izzo has not been talked about with Michigan State. Why? They're a 3 seed. Kentucky is in the midst of the scandal. Why are we not talking about them? They're a 5 seed. Duke and North Carolina, both 2 seeds. Wendell Carter was one of the names on the probe list with the FBI. Learn and know and pay attention to things. If winning is involved, no one cares. Wouldn't be surprised if anything was involved with Andre Drummond. That might have been why he left after a year. Because he really was not ready. He really and truly, and I'm not, before I say this, I don't want it to sound like I'm the asshole or I'm the bad guy about basketball. But Andre Drummond was not ready for the NBA. This is his, I believe, 4th season. He's still developing as far as a player and learning the game. Because he really doesn't fit the game of basketball, but he does his role as far as being a big man. You can put 3,000 coaches around a player and make them good. But we're going to see. We have to see what happens. And we still are, and as I've mentioned before, and I've kind of been petty about it, the Markelle Fultz trial is still under process. I'll get into that because I have yet to really read any stories, and I didn't get any information to confirm it, but I believe he's going to the G League. It was either going to be one of two things. Either he was going to be in the G League or he wasn't going to play this year. I really and truly still believe he's not going to play this year. Fuck the trust the process shit. Just general information, he's not going to play this year. It's not even a benefit to do. There's no need or no reason to. Hopping into soccer, and I know that's like a random segue, and I'm sipping tea, trying to get my life because I've been going. But wow, I did a lot of sports today. I already knew college basketball was going to take up a good amount of the food, so that's a given. But yeah, as far as just to cap off college hoops are going to be a big chunk of the shows for the next couple of weeks, especially when we get to Final Four, because it's always an entertaining feat when they decide to show who the 4 teams are, and we got to watch them practice. Like, we need to know what their plays are. What they're not even going to show plays. They just are running up and down the court and just kind of doing their drills before, like, a day or two before the March Madness tournament. Excuse me. West Ham, jumping over to our famous and lovely land known as England. Between Burnley and West Ham, it seems like there was a issue on field. The title can kind of throw you off, but I'll read the story and it'll kind of come full circle. West Ham fans invade pitch, confront players, and call for board to quit during Burnley game. Tensions at West Ham reached a boiling point as fans invaded the pitch and others vented their anger at the board during the 3-0 Premier League defeat to Burnley at the London Stadium. A turbulent week off the pitch, which has seen fans cancel a planned protest march and then turn against each other when a second demonstration was arranged and subsequently shelved, became toxic. Ashley Barnes had put Burnley ahead early in the second half when a fan ran into the middle of the pitch, left unchallenged until Hammers captain Mark Noble intervened and shoved the man to the ground. As that fan ran back toward the stands, another two came on and were eventually led away by defender James Collins. Burnley's second goal, scored by Chris Wood, proved the final straw for hundreds of fans who charged along the concourse between the tiers of the stadium and gathered under the director's box to chant, "Sack the board, and you destroyed our club." Joint owners David Gold and David Sullivan, whose decision to move the club from their old Upton Park home to the former Olympic Stadium is behind the anger, were reported to have left their seats for their own safety. A fourth supporter, meanwhile, picked up a corner flag, ran to the center circle, and planted it in the ground. Police were then positioned along the touchline and specifically around the West Ham bench, where more disturbances appeared to take place. The Premier League issued a statement condemning the scenes. It is essential that everybody who plays or attends a Premier League football match can do so safely. There is no place at any level of the game for what happened at the London Stadium today. While the official investigation of the incidents will be carried out by the Football Association, we will be asking our own questions of West Ham United about what happened this afternoon, especially to ensure similar events never reoccur. We would like to commend referee Lee Mason and his team of officials for their actions, which, combined with their cooperation of players and coaching from both staff from both clubs, enabled the match to be completed. West Ham vowed to take decisive and appropriate action after an investigation. The club stated, West Ham, you have immediately launched a full and thorough investigation into the incidents which marred the second half of today's match and are committed to taking decisive and appropriate action. It gives more information related to this, and I found this story because it's one of those things where you realize you would, in your mind, in your thought process, you feel like something can't go too far, and then all of a sudden it goes too far. This went too far. There's no mild way of putting it. Soccer has always gone on and processed through sportsmanship and fair play. Now, granted, sportsmanship and fair play has nothing to do with the team getting beat 3-0. I got that. But that being said, if it's your team, you support your team, but you don't have to do it in an ignorant way. This is going to be the weirdest analogy, but it's going to work because y'all know me. England does not get a pass to be ratchet. Let that sink in. Just because it's not black people, and just because it ain't hood and ghetto and thugged out, it does not give a pass or give a fair shake on saying, okay, you know what? We're going to be ratchet and we're going to turn up and we're going to act a complete fool. Like, to go to the extremes that fans were, there were no plans, that fans went to, you're making it clear that you don't care and don't understand that it's not about you. Like making it about you and getting 15 minutes of fame, and yeah, you got a story presented in ESPN. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. But of course, on the flip side, let them tell it. They feel like they achieved something massive. You really didn't. I feel what makes it even worse is that if we were to break down the teams and as far as like rankings and all that nature, there's a strong shot that they're probably in, if not on the verge of relegation. Talked about this before, share it again because I always like to, keep my non-soccer fans in tune in knowing that the worst place you want to be is in relegation stage. You don't want to be in that bottom run because there's nothing there but just headaches and problems. So West Ham is 16th, and they played. Let me make sure I'm looking at this correctly because I don't want to give any incorrect information. Burnley, don't leave me. Okay, sorry. Burnley is actually 7th. So West Ham is like right on and in all fairness, West Ham is like right on the edge of the score. Or they're right on the edge of relegation. In my personal opinion, but I doubt they'll do it. I feel like they should be relegated for this. But it's all a matter of what the Premier League decides to do involving this incident. So that story, if it gets any more attention or generates any more concern, we'll bring it around full circle and talk about it again. So now we're at our somewhat semi-chill, semi-idle, but very heavy weighted stuff. Today we have a fair share of tech. This definitely is a tech based section for the stuff. Usually I'm giving y'all tech, and this is literally a mixture of text and games. So I mean, yeah, we're gonna let it rock. And one of them is a fun story because it continues the infamous rebranding trend. So the first story involves Capital One. They're introducing a new technology. It is known as Eno. So I'm going to go into that a little bit. And it's basically their virtual credit card, which could help and has a possibility of benefiting to avoid fraud. They also are providing the AR car shopping experience too. And we'll read into that and get that all broken down for everyone, as my article almost didn't want to come together just now. Capital One is no stranger to trying new things, especially when it comes to technology. Its Eno texting chatbot, for example, is a quick and conversational way for its customers to check their balances and perform simple tasks like checking on recent transactions. Now the bank is bringing Eno to web browsers with an intriguing new feature, virtual credit card numbers. Whenever customers check out from an online store, they'll be able to quickly generate a new card number from the Eno plugin and use that number for repeat visits. Whenever they return to the store, Eno will also auto-populate the virtual card in their billing info. It's tied to customers' actual credit accounts, and it functions just like a real card number. The idea is that you can create individual virtual cards for every retailer. So if something like the Target hack happens again, if you may or may not remember that, before I continue, I'm going to quickly update because a lot of people like Target hack. What happened? Target hack basically involved Target having to change all of their card readers to the Ingenico option and also doing chip readers due to a major security hack that happened with Target. That's the simplest way to put that. But the link is in the show notes, and it's actually in the story related to the Target hack. So if something like the Target hack happens again, you'll be able to quickly halt charges or delete the card completely, all the while your actual credit card is safe. The Eno plugin will only work with credit cards, but Capital One says it's working on bringing the feature to debit cards. It might seem like a stopgap measure for wider banking system issues, but it's a faster way to protect consumers than waiting for the payment industry to wise up, Representatives told Engadget. At the very least, it's an easy way to get some peace of mind while shopping online. Additionally, the company is launching an augmented reality or AR feature for its Auto Navigator app, which helps shoppers find cars quickly and quickly secure financing. Instead of searching for financing information about a car manually, you can just hold your phone up to see make and model details right above the vehicle, as well as what your monthly payment would be. It's still in its early stages, but it could help shoppers to navigate car lots without being pestered by annoying sales reps. Still not going to change that, just being honest. This AR feature is iPhone only, but Capital One plans to bring it to Android. For now, users on other platforms can upload photos of cars to Auto Navigator on the bank's website. It'll fetch the same information, it just won't be floating above the car in real time. That's baby steps and people wanting bells and whistles when they don't need it. Sorry. Lost my whole brain of thought. With both products, Capital One is trying to push the idea of banking forward by providing genuinely useful tools for consumers. We've never seen competitors offer virtual cards in the same way. For example, the company isn't divulging too many details about how its technology works, but representatives noted that it was similar to the way mobile payment offerings like Apple Pay handle tokenization. Whenever those services handle a transaction, they create a random virtual number rather than passing along your actual account information. The AR feature, meanwhile, relies on a machine learning algorithm that can identify thousands of car models. Ultimately, it just serves as a simple way to grab a car loan through Capital One. So let's chew this down for a second, because I want to be sure that you're like a lot of people, I want to be fair in what I'm about to say. I know most cases I sit here and I just read articles and I make it like y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm going to expect that a lot of it is going to be new territory or like a green as grass. Like where did this come from and how do these topics hit? Most topics are based on what really is the heavy trend. Before I talk about this article specifically, for instance, this week is South by Southwest. I wish I could go, but I can't. And I don't have anyone who I know who's there that can. No, I honestly wish I could go, but life happens and you just kind of let things be what they are. The virtual credit card, I feel like is going to be a step in the right direction to introduce an issue that has gone on with credit card companies for years. Consumers sometimes assume that one specific company is being hit with fraud, when in reality, fraud goes on with any major banking or credit card company. You have to know and have to realize any step in the right direction is a step. And sometimes that's gone but forgotten in the mindset or in the era that we're in. Because everyone wants everything to just be secure, flawless, no issues, no problem. And that's not always the case. If you go back, and I'm gonna kind of do like a mini 6 degrees of separation to kind of get everyone on board to understand how far we've come technology wise. If you remember when sites such as Amazon, eBay, CD Now, before they joined Amazon, those are the first ones I can think of offhand. When they were all on scene as far as saying, hey, you're going to go to our website, you're going to buy stuff, eBay, all those companies, everything is secure. And a lot of people were like, I don't trust the internet. I don't feel like it's secure. But then more technologies and more technological options became available. In the 90s, there was no such thing, let alone early 2000s, there was no such thing as ship to store. That was That was a whole new process that literally has been introduced probably in the last 3 to 5 years. You think of, and I'm throwing this out there, but it kind of ties into it. Think of eBay. I think of eBay as far as how products are sold now. At one point, eBay was not doing buy it now. Go back and remember. Like, go back in your mental memory bank and remember when you actually had to bid for products, hoping that you would win the product, or let alone hoping that no one was even looking at the product that you wanted. And I went through that last night, by the way. There was a stylist, story time. There was a stylist I was trying to go for. And I was like, I need this to be like, nobody else bid. I don't want anyone bidding. This is mine. Luckily it worked out, but now we're at the point we do buy it now. Sharing that all kind of ties into this story because now we're at a stage where there are more options or more ways of having an account be compromised. I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm saying this to just get people to understand. If your information is available, don't make it overly available for the wrong reasons. Autocomplete is a great feature, but autocomplete is used incorrectly. And when I say autocomplete, I'm referring to things that enters information for you, such as your card, such as your name, such as your address. There was someone who had an experience related to this where they were filling out an application. And instead of them putting in their information, it was putting in someone else's information they knew, and it wasn't supposed to be entered for the application that the person was trying to do. That happens because we don't take time to invest in reading and understanding what's important. I want to say this was last year, the year before. It might have been last year. Went to get my car worked on. Working on the car, they, breaking everything down. It's like, yeah, we can give you a price. We'll fix it, no problem. I didn't feel like getting my card out, number one. And number two, I don't use chip readers very often. But there are moments that I'm like, okay, this is the first moment that I had to use it. So I was like, I'm going to try it out because I think I had just gotten my iPhone. I had my iPhone for a little while. And I said, I'm going to test this out. So I, put my phone up to the reader. And they had Apple Pay. The lady who worked at the facility didn't even know she had Apple Pay set up. Like her device was able to use Apple Pay. And I know I'm saying this like in first grade, like syllables and breaking it all down, but I'm really wanting you all to understand. Like, we're in an era where virtual cards is a thing. Companies are going to eventually, I won't say conform, but they're going to transition into it for the safety of the consumer. As consumers, I'm going to make consumers be accountable today because I want this to be. This is where I love doing. Moments like these are where I love doing podcasts. If you have a mobile device that is a smartphone and you're able to place your card information through your phone, one, put your phone into a lock feature where it has to be unlocked through thumbprint or through code. Second, if you're adding or have cards that are on your person, just place one card to use that program, whether it's Samsung Pay, Google Pay, Apple Pay, whatever. Utilize that feature because then you're not having to run and get your card all the time. Because what then happens is, and here's where, like they mentioned this in this article, and that's why I'm sharing this. When I made the transaction at the store, it didn't show the last 4 digits of my card that's in my pocket. It showed a virtual card number that I won't even know that they will only have for that transaction. So if they make an attempt to try and do research and figure out what a card is, not saying that company would, but if some store or some business was trying to do that, they would have to do a lot of snooping and probing to get that information. And even still, you're going to get the wrong information. It's basically like it's fooling the card reader into believing it's a card, but it's a card that's being used for the benefit of that transaction. And that's what this is doing, and that's what this new feature will do for businesses. Now, like I said, the tough part is getting it to be not necessarily universal, but to be used on a consistent basis. And that comes with time. I'm sorry. So I'm going to stop. I'm not going to say I'm stopping, but I'm going to share this with you all. I've shared this with a friend of mine, and I'm sharing this with you all because this isn't really per se a story, but it's a legitimate thing. People talk about gaming. They say, "Oh, gaming is stupid. It's boring. It's whack. Why would you play that? You know, all you're doing is you sitting in the basement in your mom's basement playing video games, and we want just eating sandwiches and drinking water." Well, if you realized that you had an opportunity to make $570,000 a month doing that, would you change your mind? Something to think about. Not gonna really go too deep into that, but I just wanted to share that because it came across my timeline, and I had a similar story talking about it before from one of the top streamers, and he's increased in his wealth as far as him gaming. But Eno is going to be a good thing for Capital One. I personally believe that. It's going to be new because a lot of people, resistance to change is what makes us fight, being who we are. But most importantly, it generates that discomfort that people need to have sometimes. Because if we've been doing the same thing over and over, where we expect, hey, if I'm able to go to the gas station and I have to use my card at the pump, I don't feel like I should be able to go inside. Not true. There are some places it's more beneficial to go inside because for the safety of your person, I am going to, okay, this is an exposure, and then we're going to get into the next story because I really need to get this off of my chest because I think people don't understand where we are in 2018. Even with you believing, if I use my card at the gas pump and I swipe my card, it's safe. I would rather do that than to go inside. What if that card reader at the gas pump may have a card reader or have a device on it that picks up your card information and you don't know it? I'm not saying that this happens at every place, and I'm not saying that people who use card machines at gas pumps may or may not look for it, but it can happen. So don't put things in your mind and be frozen on what you feel can work, when in hindsight, some things are being changed or adjusted to benefit you in the long haul. And we sometimes forget that. Today is tangent day, if y'all can or cannot tell. We're going to try our hardest to not break two hours, but I can't make any promises. Next story we have is that the folks over at Microsoft and Sony are fighting this battle for Fortnite. I don't know how to feel about it. Anyone who has or has not heard, and this is ironic because the story that I shared about the gamer who's making the money, his name is Ninja on Twitch. So if you look up twitch.tv/Ninja, you'll find him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's online playing still, but he was playing Fortnite. Fortnite has become one of the top games on Twitch. Twitch is streaming, but it's also become a top game, period, where people are really all in on it. And it's kind of become like it's somewhat become the new PUBG, but it's also gotten that H1Z1 feeling that people were missing. Because H1Z1 was top notch at one time. And then H1Z1 just disappeared because of PUBG. PUBG is still in the mix because it's always going to be in top 5. But Fortnite fights for position of all games, League of Legends, which says a lot. So right now, Fortnite Battle Royale is the latest video game to have cross-platform play among some devices, but just can't link PlayStation and Xbox players. Funny how that keeps happening. And it's funny how that keeps happening because they say that because if you recall, this same issue became a problem with Rocket League. Rocket League can be played on PC and Xbox. And if I'm not mistaken, it can be played between PC and PlayStation. Same applied with Street Fighter. Street Fighter, PC and PlayStation does fine. PlayStation and Microsoft do not want to deal with each other. Last week, we learned that Fortnite Battle Royale will be coming to mobile, with crossplay between PS4, PC, Android, and iOS. Then, over the weekend in a blog post, Epic Games announced that Xbox One would have crossplay as well with PC, Android, and iOS, not PS4. Afterwards, One tweeted that Xbox boss Phil Spencer tweeted at Xbox boss Phil Spencer telling him how much the community wants to see Xbox One and PS4 owners be able to play the same game online together. Me too, Spencer replied. Even Fortnite creators Epic Studios chimed in. We three. Microsoft has long been a leading voice in encouraging the adoption of cross-platform play and the potential of connecting players across PC, mobile, and all consoles, a Microsoft representative said in an email to Kotaku today when asked to elaborate. We worked closely with Nintendo to allow cross-network play between Xbox One and Switch, and our offer to do the same with PlayStation players still holds. For any reason, questions regarding Fortnite cross-network play between Xbox and PlayStation, please reach out to Epic or Sony directly. Sony and Epic did not respond to a request for comment. And they brought up my story. We've been here before. In early 2016, Microsoft announced a support for cross-platform play between Windows 10 and Xbox One, paving the way for Rocket League players across both platforms to be able to play together, something already possible between PS4 and Steam users. The company then went further, extending an open invitation for other networks to participate, i.e. Sony. In a statement to GameSpot, the latter dodged the issue. PlayStation has been supporting cross-platform play between PC on several software titles, starting with Final Fantasy XI on PS2 and PC back in 2002, said Sony. We would be happy to have conversation with any publishers or developers who are interested in cross-platform play. The issue came back up later that year when the head of Psyonix, the studio behind Rocket League, told IGN that everything was in place to make the game cross-play between PS4 and Xbox One. All the studio needed was permission from both of the companies involved. CD Projekt Red, the studio behind the Witcher series and its current multiplayer card game spinoff Gwent, said something similar. Microsoft already confirmed Gwent's crossplay feature not only between Xbox One and PC, but also other consoles if they allow it. CEO Marcin Iwinski told IGN. All we need is a green light from Sony. Currently, Rocket League is cross-platform between Xbox One and Switch, but not PS4. Gwent players on Xbox One and PS4 are also walled off from one another. Then in 2017 at E3, Microsoft announced that Minecraft would eventually be cross-play between Xbox One, PC, Switch, and mobile, but again, not PS4. When asked about its conspicuous absence by Eurogamer, then head of PlayStation Global Sales and Marketing, Jim Ryan and Sony was doing it for the children. We have a contract with the people who go online with us that we look after them and they are within the PlayStation curated universe. So I'm not going to give this, this is a pretty self-explanatory story. It's just kind of the repeating of consoles. Consoles will get it right with all of the console options in PC, but they won't do it with each other. And this is going to be a good little sidebar to talk about. PlayStation has ran its course, PlayStation has ran its own course and beat its own drum for quite some time. Xbox has done the same. What makes this a very, I won't say tough situation, but what makes this a very interesting story is that if you look at the gaming platforms as far as the discussion, because it's coming soon, when E3 drops, it's never let's show our games together and let's be a family. It's Xbox comes up first, then PlayStation tries to drop the hammer on them, And Nintendo's left with, hey, we're still here. Let's make sure we get our stuff out there, let people know what's going on. But throughout the year, you're getting the presentations of what the consoles are doing. It should not be this much of a rigmarole to get two consoles to work on games together. I understand. Crash Bandicoot is never coming to Xbox One. If Gears, and this is me being off the record, just talking shit, but also being direct. As much as I love Gears of War and I love Halo, I would never want to see either of those games on a PlayStation. Bottom line, they're not PlayStation-based games. PlayStation is Gran Turismo. I haven't seen I've seen a couple people play GTA on PS4. God of War, but the games that are PlayStation based are their babies. When the Call of Duty switch happened a couple of years ago, I want to say it was after Ghost, because Ghost was Xbox One. I think Advanced Warfare was Xbox One as well, because Black Ops 3 was when it started. You could see the war kind of ensuing full circle thing. Even down to simple games, like I will be brutally honest, and I feel like it would be such a benefit if it happened. If Tekken was cross-platform, I wouldn't care which system I was on to play Tekken. Games like, there are some games it's beneficial to do cross-platform. Like, it's not like the communities have to be separated as if they can't play with the other console. And granted, I'm not saying what customers sometimes say to people when they're on the phone, like, all you gotta do is flip a switch and it'll work. It's not that simple. I think what causes a lot of this delay is the red, as most businesses call it, the red tape. So there's the red tape factor, but there's also if we were to present this in a room, would everyone be on board for it? Some would, some wouldn't. The developers wouldn't be hurt by it, because the developers in the end make out great. Because the developer of the game, he's getting paid. You catching it from both sides. The games they mentioned, like I said, they mentioned Rocket League. They even mentioned Minesweeper. I forgot all about the Minesweeper madness. The Minesweeper madness was interesting because the Minesweeper community is a very underrated community. And people who are into gaming will attest to that. Minesweeper will expose your OCD on a whole nother level, which is one thing. But then as an added bonus, it actually is a good game to like just sit down and just kind of chill through and build shit. So to not be able to do it, like, hey, you online? Yeah, let's get online and play. Shouldn't be that hard. The only thing that I would, I guess, look at as a question or a concern, which really isn't a major question or a concern, is if a username who is on one console has the same username as another user on the other console. How do they, do they put like a parentheses one after it, that one? How does that work? That might be the only thing that I would think of, but that's super random. But as far as like where things are with Fortnite is one of the top games. It's going to be at the top for a while. I don't see where the issue is if Nintendo Switch is on board, if PC is on board. Hell, if Android and iOS done got on board, what's the problem? What is the problem? It should not be that serious. Like, it really shouldn't be that serious, but obviously it is, so we're here. And maybe it'll get changed. Maybe things will turn around or they'll get the shit together. But as of right now, it's just turned into a chaotic battle. And they did mention, I will end on this note, and this was always the bring up. In 2018, the tables have turned. PlayStation 4 is outselling Xbox One. As Sony remains silent on what prospect, although its partnership with Epic allowing cross-platform between PS4, PC, and mobile, but not Xbox One, would seem to speak for itself. If ever there was a perfect opportunity to announce the digital wall between the two platforms will be coming down, or at least get a few doors, the announcement of Fortnite Battle Royale coming to phones was it. Alas, the wall remains. just gonna leave it at that because I was ready to say something real wrong and it would have been just completely wrong. So we'll just move on to the next story. Apple is learning. Apple always learns weirdly, but this is like a minor word. I mean, minor. It's a minor story, but it's a relevant story, and I'll just kind of chew it into its simple form. Apple is giving the logo for its MFI program a refresh, offering manufacturers 90 days, three new designs to work with, reports Charger Lab. Launched in 2005, the MFI program is a licensing scheme for third-party manufacturers to ensure that their accessories are compatible with Apple's various products. Companies have to go through testing to adhere to Apple standards and can use a logo to advertise that their products can work with iPods, iPhones, and iPads. Apple is changing up that single logo for a trio of new ones. The new design ditches the tiny iPod, iPhone, and iPad illustrations in favor of the Apple logo and introduces three specific logos: one for the iPhone, one for the iPhone and iPad, and one for each of the three devices. Manufacturers have 90 days to update their product designs to include the new logo. So, long story short, we know no one needs an image of an actual iPod, which petty moment, because I still have my iPod Classic. No one needs a product that shows a picture of an iPod, a picture of an iPhone, and a picture of the iPad on it. We know that they're all Apple products. So the simpler way to do it is to just make a logo that says that's MFI compatible, and it has made for, and whichever queue it goes into is which one matters. Your main ones that you're typically going to be trying to go for is if it's made for the iPhone. If it's made for the iPhone, we good. If it's made for the iPhone and the iPad, then all right, I can roll with it. Making it for all three is that limited rarity because there aren't but so many products that are using the Thunder. Like as far as with charging now, I mean, if you're looking at MP3 players for iPod, you're at the 6th generation iPod, which I think I still have the 5th generation. And if I'm remembering correctly, because I don't even think Apple sells it on their site anymore. Apple is down to, they have iPad, iPhone, Watch TV. I'm assuming, I could say it might be under music, but I doubt it because, they do have it. So the iPod Touch they're still pushing the iPod Touch, but not to that extreme. They still sell them, but a couple years back, I had a friend of mine who she was kind of like my Apple go-to. She was mentioning it very consistently, like, you might as well prepare for like Apple products you may as well prepare for Apple to stop selling iPods. And what's ironic is they still have iPods on their page, but the other side of it too, now with Apple kind of in most cases, and all right, I'll say this and then I'll kind of leave it because it's not really like a huge story. But the iPod that I have, the last update that I was able to get, I believe, was like iOS 9. I think I'm at iOS 9. I wasn't able to get 10 or 11. And that's because of the generation. But the newer iPod, you can get iOS 11. So that's, I'm assuming, the 6th generation. And it's pretty much a cut and dry option on what they provide because they're really not going to give you much in the box anyway because all you really need is the iPod itself. I believe it still has the headphone jack, which, we really have ditched and let go, and your cable to charge your iPad. To charge your iPod. So iPod isn't really their biggest attention, and it never has been intended. It lately has not been intended to be, thanks to most people having an iPad, which I'm using for, as most of y'all know, like I use my iPad to read the stories or the show notes because it's much easier than having to do it through my laptop. But the iPhone, everyone using iPhone. I mean, everyone who has Apple uses an iPhone. I'm not throwing everybody into I'm not putting people into the everybody all Apple matters. No, it's pretty much if you have Apple, you have an iPhone, and your latest iPhone would likely be the iPhone 5, maybe the 5, at the most 6, 7, or 8. If you got an X, more power to you. But yeah, they're kind of just targeting what's benefiting and what's working for the cause, and it's much easier to get these stickers on products than to sit there and go through making a made for iPhone, iPad, iPod image. And luckily, what they've done now also, and it's said here, but it's not said, is they put them in order, in a much different order. Because when you looked at it initially, you're looking at a device and you're like, okay, made for iPod. I don't have an iPod. Made for an iPhone. Oh, okay, I got an iPhone. Like, if you're looking at something, you want something that's going to be quick. So it's like, okay, if I look at this and I see, okay, it's made for the iPhone, cool, I can use this. Because story time, and then we're going to go into Artist Spotlight. If you are out buying accessories at any location, not just at Best Buy, Target, Walmart, major tech companies, stores such as CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, smaller businesses, or not, I won't even say smaller business, pharmacies, stuff like that. You would be surprised what you can find if you look in products and see that they have okay, this is actually got the MFI compatibility. Like, there's a cable we have here at my house that is legit it was a godsend. The cord has to be about 8 or 9 feet long, but it's MFI compatible. So if I plug my tablet in, or if I plug my phone in, it's gonna charge, and I gotta go through, I don't know if this is gonna work or not. I always make sure whenever I'm looking for products that's listed, because if it's not, I won't use it. I will be the first to admit it, and I won't even back down from that. So now we're at our singing point, and I know I'm gonna hear about it at some point, because I shared with my friends my singing that I was attempting to do this morning or earlier today, as far as preparing for the show. Because normally, as anyone knows, you always want to do a test listen or a test record, so to make sure your recording is all done properly. And I'm gonna share this before I do the music or Artist Spotlight. If you are doing or looking at podcasting, and I'm not even gonna do it on the podcast level, I'm just gonna say in general, if there's something that you're looking to do or are trying to do, if you put limited effort into it, you're gonna get limited output from it. And I share that, and I say it that way because sometimes by nature we feel like if we give the bare minimum, we're doing the right thing, but in reality, we're not. We're not helping or benefiting the cause in any shape or manner doing that. So as far as I've, people have talked to me, and I'm me. I don't change about that. But it's hey, I want to do podcasts, and hey, I want to record. Okay. That's step one. I was the same. The interesting part for me was I had no one that I came to. It was hey, I want a podcast. Hey, I want to record. It was just, I started it. And when I started it, it was a lesson. It was a learning curve. It was a change. It was a huge transition. When I first did my early shows, I never would sit and talk about anything. I was just I'm just gonna talk about this, and this is what I have, and this is how I feel, and this is where I'm at. I didn't have links for people. No one knew what I was talking about. I just was talking about the story. So it was learning things, learning how to add links to stories, adding show notes, marking podcasts. I didn't know any of that stuff, so I learned it. I'm just sharing all that to share with you. If you putting your best effort into something, do it to its maximum potential, and understand that there's going to be discomfort. I'm just putting that in the midst because I really wanted to get that off my system before I continue. Today's Artist Spotlight better give you emotions. This morning I was listening, and I'm gonna do her tomorrow. Pause. Um, borderline. No, the artist spotlight that I initially had for today was changed, and it'll be for next week. Um, but I was listening to the song "The Roof" by Mobb Deep and Mariah, and I, thought about, most people always know her for "All I Want for Christmas," which anyone has heard my Christmas rant about that. Good times, but and as a whole, Mariah Carey has done a lot of things. So she was born in Long Island, New York. Uh, on okay, let's start over. The best-selling performer of the 1990s and one of the most popular artists through the 2010s, Mariah Carey rose to superstardom on the strength of her stunning five-octave voice. That's the key element of this whole story. An elastic talent who moved easily from glossy ballads to hip-hop inspired dance pop, she earned frequent comparison to rivals Whitney Houston and Celine Dion, but did them one better by co-writing almost all of her material. Like all artists with lengthy periods in the mainstream spotlight, Carey experienced creative and commercial lulls, yet each one of her proper studio albums peaked in the top 5 of the Billboard 200. Born in Long Island, New York on March 27, 1970, Carey moved to New York City at the age of 17, just one day after graduating high school, to pursue a music career. There she befriended keyboardist Ben Margulies, with whom she began writing her songs. Her big break came as a backing vocalist on a studio session with a dance pop singer, Brenda K. Starr, who handed Carey's demo tape to Columbia Records head Tommy Mottola at a party. According to legend, Mottola listened to the tape in his limo while driving home that same evening and was so immediately struck by Carey's talent that he doubled back to the party to track her down. After signing to Columbia, Carey entered the studio to begin work on her 1990 self-titled debut LP. The heavily promoted album was a chart-topping smash, launching no less than 4 number one singles: Vision of Love, Love Takes Time, Someday, and I Don't Want to Cry. Her overnight success earned Grammy Awards as Best New Artist and Best Female Vocalist, and expectations were high for Carey's follow-up, 1991's Emotions. The album did not disappoint as the title track reached number 1, a record 5th consecutive chart topper, while both Can't Let Go and Make It Happen landed in the top 5. Carey's next release was 1992's MTV Unplugged EP, which generated a number 1 cover of the Jackson 5's I'll Be There. Featured on the track was backup singer Trey Lorenz, whose appearance immediately helped him land a recording contract of his own. In June of '93, Carey wed Mottola some 2 decades later, her senior, in a headline Grammy ceremony. Months later, she released her third full-length effort, Music Box, which became her best-selling record to date. 2 more singles, Dream Lover and Hero, reached the top spot on the charts. Carey's first tour followed and was widely panned by critics. Undaunted, she resurfaced in 1994 with a holiday release titled Merry Christmas, scoring a seasonal smash with All I Want for Christmas Is You. Released in 1995, Daydream reflected a new artistic maturity. The first single, Fantasy, debuted at number 1, making Carey the first female artist and just the second performer ever to accomplish the feat. The follow-up, One Sweet Day, a collaboration with Boyz II Men, repeated the trick and remained lodged at the top of the charts for a record 16 weeks. After separating from Mottola, Carey returned in 1997 with Butterfly, another staggering success and her most hip-hop flavored recording to date. Number One's a collection featuring her 13 previous chart-topping singles as well as The Prince of Egypt, When You Believe, a duet with Whitney Houston, effectively pairing the 2 most successful female recording artists in pop history, followed late the next year. With Heartbreaker, the first single from her 1999 album Rainbow, Carey became the first artist to top the charts in each year of the 90s. The record also pushed her ahead of the Beatles as the artist with the most cumulative weeks spent atop the Hot 100 singles chart. However, the early 2000s weren't as kind to Carey. After signing an $80 million deal in 2001 with Virgin, the biggest record contract ever, she starred in her first film, Glitter, and its attendant soundtrack, which was also her Virgin Records debut. Despite the movie's soft ticket sales, the Glitter soundtrack eventually went platinum thanks to the single Loverboy. Virgin and Carey parted ways in early 2002, with the label paying her $28 million. That spring, she found a new home with Island Def Jam, where she set up her own label, Monarchy Music. In December, she released her ninth album, Charm Bracelet, her first proper studio album to go merely platinum rather than multi-platinum. The Emancipation of Mimi, her most successful work in years, appeared in 2005. It climbed to multi-platinum status and earned Carey 3 Grammy Awards. Best Contemporary R&B Album, and for the single We Belong Together. Best Female R&B Female R&B Vocal Performance, and Best R&B Song, thus restoring her status as a megastar. 2 weeks before the release of her subsequent album, 2008's E=MC2, Carey scored her 18th number one hit with Touch My Body, a feat that pushed her into second place, past Elvis, no less, among all artists with the most chart-topping singles. Although that hit song, along with the late April news that she had married Nick Cannon, kept her in the spotlight that year. The remainder of the album's spin-offs were nearly as successful. Only Bye Bye managed to scrape the top 20 of the Billboard's Hot 100s. Carey went back to work fairly quickly, however, and in 2009, Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel, featuring collaborations with The Dream as well as coverings of Foreigner's I Want to Know What Love Is, became her 12th studio album. Despite some positive reviews, it was her least successful studio album. Only one of his singles, Obsessed, reached the top 10. The following year, Carey released her second Christmas album, Merry Christmas to You. She gave birth to twins in 2011, and within a year, she was performing again and judged the 12th season of American Idol. The Miguel collaboration, Beautiful, led the lead single to her next album, was released in 2003 and went platinum. Me, I Am Mariah, the Elusive Chanteuse. Her first album for Def Jam followed in 2014 and reached number 2 on the album charts. Mariah could sing. Like, no one will ever take that away from Mariah. This is probably going to be one of my most transparent talkings of a musical artist. I'm going to just go ahead and give you a fair warning. Mariah was a very talented singer. She still is to this day. I feel as though she used the diva card to her advantage. And I'm not knocking Mariah. Like, when I say that, this is not me, okay, I'm beating Mariah up as an artist. Because Mariah she would always be known for her octaves. No one could hit the levels that she could hit with notes. She had just a melodic voice for singing. Whenever there's one of those things where an artist, seeing too much of an artist can be bad for you. And with Mariah, there was no exception. You was going to get Mariah day in, day out, night in, night out, day after day, week after week. Especially, like I talked about this on somebody's podcast before, on Loop, actually on my friend Loop That Bish, on her podcast, talking about how if there was one, anytime you always knew when it was Christmas time because you'd always hear All I Want for Christmas, and I was overdosed with that song because it was a good song, but it was like, there's not but so much of this. I can't do but so much of Mariah. So it was kind of that thing. Side note, because I do want to be fair in doing this because I didn't mention it. If you are looking for good music on Spreaker and on iTunes, please look for Loop That Bish. LOOPTHATBISH. Music and mixes will get your life right. She does a lot of Mariah. She throws some Mariah mixes in there from time to time, so I got to give props where it's due. But any type of music, she good to go. But Mariah, I like Mariah's music. Like Mariah's career went every direction possible. Like she's still iconic to this day. Like, you know, even if she was to perform, I think she even performed she participated with the New Year's, you know, festivities as far as singing. There was that year where she kind of looked like she had the "I'm over it and don't really feel like singing" stage, but I won't say we give her a pardon. I think it's just more so fans understand, like, hey, it could have just been a bad day, or there might not have been the times you wanted. You never know. But that being said, I like Mariah as a singer, so that was why I chose Mariah this week for Artist Spotlight. Like I said, my spotlight next week will definitely be a good one. I almost gave a clue, but I'm gonna just hold that one. So we're now at what I like to call my fun point, but my heart, my touching point. So this is as we like to call it, the ass of the week. We have two this week. First, and this, I don't know if this is really considered to be ass of the week, but it made it, so we're here. Florida lawmakers were voting to stay in daylight savings time all year long. Just gonna let y'all think about that. Since a couple days ago, we did, quote unquote, lose an hour of sleep. Depending on who you are, you really don't feel it, because most people don't sleep anyway. No, let me stop. Most times, time can pass, but if you really aren't noticing, it's not like, I don't care who you are, unless you wake up and can say, hey, I was asleep for 3.5 hours. You really don't know if you lost an hour of sleep or gained an hour of sleep or not. Like, I know that particular night, I think I was home, and the hour changed, and I just kind of kept it pushing. There really wasn't much of a difference for me, but everyone's different. Lawmakers in Florida are tired of the whole fall back and spring forward rigmarole, so they've approved a bill to keep daylight savings time going throughout the year in their state. It took the Senate less than a minute Tuesday to pass the Sunshine Protection Act. There were only 2 dissenters. The bill now goes to the desk of Governor Rick Scott, but it's far from a done deal after that. Even if the governor approves, a change like this will literally take an act of Congress. But if all is approved, Floridians who will set their clocks ahead 1 hour this Sunday when daylight saving time begins won't have to mess with it ever again. Florida will then join Hawaii and most of Arizona, the 2 places that are exempt from the Uniform Act of 1966. The act established the system of uniform daylight saving time throughout the U.S., a time whose time has passed. Efforts to kill off daylight saving time are nearly as old as the time shift itself, and many of the commonly offered rationales for daylight saving time, daylight saving time, yes, it's saving, not savings, no longer hold true. So I probably said it wrong a couple times, but y'all know what I mean. Shoot, daylight saving time. A 2008, for instance, one reason Congress used in enacting daylight saving time is that it saves energy. A 2008 U.S. Department of Energy study reported that daylight saving time reduces annual energy use by only about 0.03%. And a study that same year from the University of California, Santa Barbara found it might even increase energy consumption. Another study found the clock changes can raise the risk of accidents by sleep-deprived motorists. Never thought of it like that. So, whether this law goes through, we'll see how it goes. There's not really a huge amount of attention I want to give to it. I just wanted to at least talk about that story because it was definitely one that slightly caught me off guard. I was like, oh, this is new. This is different. But, yeah, it happened. So I wanted to at least make sure I give it its proper attention. The other... And I'm normally I get pretty decent stories, and then I get stories that I'm like, this really is not a story, but And when I say it's really not a story, I mean, it's really not a story as in, wait, this actually happened. Um, so this article I'm not really too fond of because the source is not really one of my faves. Give me a sec. I had it ready and then everything want to break. I don't like life. So, pro gun Jamie Gilt was shot by her 4-year-old son while driving after the boy found her pistol in the back seat just one day after she bragged about his shooting skills. I'm being quiet for a second because I don't even know where to begin with this story. A high-profile pro-gun activist was shot in the back by her 4-year-old son after he found her pistol lying on the back seat of her truck just 24 hours after he boasted about his shooting skills online. Jamie Gilt, 31, who posts about firearms on her social media accounts, was driving through Putnam County, Jacksonville, Florida, on Tuesday in her truck when she was wounded after the toddler picked up the weapon and shot her in the back. It came just a day after she said the youngster would get jacked up before a shooting practice on a page dedicated to her musings on Second Amendment rights. On the profile, Jamie Gilt for gun since she wrote, "Even my 4-year-old gets jacked up to target shooting with the 22. She reportedly believes she has the right to shoot anyone who threatens her family and plans to teach her offspring the same mentality." According to CBS 47, Gilt was on her way to pick up a horse when the shooting unfolded. So they show a video, I guess, related to the story. Her 4-year-old son picked up a loaded .45 semi-automatic handgun from the back seat, pointed it towards his mother, and pulled the trigger. The powerful round went through the front seat and passed through Gilt's body. Gilt flagged down a passing sheriff's deputy and told him that she had been shot. Deputies recovered a .45 semi-automatic handgun from the floor of the truck. They're satisfied that the round was fired from inside the vehicle. Gilt and her son had been traveling to pick up the horse from a relative when the accident happened. And then he's going into more detail and information about the story, breaking down the gun and all that crap. So I'm not giving this a lot of attention because, number one, and I'm being very Brian in what I'm about to say. A person who chooses to do what they do or don't do or whatever, I have no knock against like people who possess or own guns. I don't. I personally don't have a reason to. Never had a benefit in seeing where it was beneficial or whatever. But okay, whatever. You have a gun. My logical and my simple question to this is, why, if you're carrying a gun, you're supposed to, and help me, like any of my folks who have a concealed weapon, it's supposed to be concealed. Why is your gun sitting on your back seat, just happen to be sitting there type scenario? That's my first thing that I'm thinking about. Even if there was a child on the back seat or not, just you got to sit on the back seat. Number two, even though I'm not even gonna say even though, it's just why? Who in their right mind is teaching a 4-year-old how to use a gun? Obviously she is, but what's the gain of this? Like, where's the logic in doing this? There's just, I'm not comprehending what the benefit is of having a gun sitting on the back seat that happens to sit beside your 4-year-old. And your 4-year-old picks it up and shoots you. The other side of this that I'm looking at is that the incident happened, nothing happened to the child. Obviously, they're a minor. I mean, I get that part. But then it probably comes down to, well, is your mom, how would that be handled? I'm like, these are things that I'm sitting here and thinking about now, because it's like, first and foremost, I wish I would even come close to having a gun in my person or near me at that age. It just would not even, it doesn't compute. Now, granted, everyone lives lives and goes through life differently. But I can't give justification to carrying a weapon in your car with a 4-year-old. If anything, why wasn't the gun on the, like, if you're trying to have it nearby, then you would have it on your passenger seat, or like most people, put it in your glove compartment or put it away. Like, I'll tell this story and then I'm gonna close, because I didn't even really think about this until I just was sitting here talking about it, because this was actually last week. So last week I went to get my car worked on, and while I was there, I'm getting my stuff worked on, and one of the guys was in there. He was looking at his phone. He, laughing at stuff like anybody else doing on YouTube. Watching videos, YouTube, whatever. So he was getting ready to, I guess, leave, but he was handling his business with the people, the salesman at the store, at the car place. If I already mentioned the name of the business, oh well, but fuck it. So while we're there, and it's legal here to do, so I don't, that part I'm not bothered by. Out of nowhere, I'm looking, and it's like he got his pants on, and you can see his gun sitting on the side, and it was concealed, and it was fine. Like, that part, I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with, and what I'm trying to understand is, what are you bringing your gun to a car dealer? I mean, not a car dealer, but to a mechanic store or business for? Like, what's the reason? Like, give me some type of logic behind where this makes sense, because I don't see it. I'm not getting it. I missed it. I must have fell asleep. I don't know, something. But, granted, here we are. So we can't hold on to that any longer. It's done. It's over. But it was amazing, but it was also weird, because I've been places, I've had, moments where I needed things for whatever reason. But in that location, I don't see it. I don't get it. I didn't get it. I don't see the relevance of it in that moment. I'm just hoping, I'm sharing that story, that was just a general story, but I'm hoping that this incident with her was a wake-up call. More than likely, it's not going to be. What I am going to do, to be fair, because I did realize it, like the other article, Daily Mail is not really one of my best sources for getting stories, but the other source I did, I have it, and I went ahead, and it's going to be in the show notes as well. I broke 2 hours. Can't believe it. Actually, I can. There was a lot of shit to talk about. So we're at the end, and of course I got to add all my favorites, my intro and outro, so I'm going to do that in a moment. But I truly hope that, as I share these stories and as I, continue to be a phenomenal podcaster, like, I want people to know how important it is to have people in your corner. That will, because I've dropped, like, I don't want to use the term gym dropping, because I love Amanda Seals and I want her to come for me. She's a great podcast. No, she's a great person, period. But my roommate smacked me with some life, so I'm like, I need to pay it forward, because I feel like it's things that and then these won't be her messages, but these are just general messages to just talk about to kind of close. Value what life brings. Value those who are around you. Like, this is just some general, just smack you, just wake you up, just to get your mind and your life right. People, sometimes we know people are in our lives for a reason or for a purpose. We may or may not know why in that immediate moment, but eventually it comes full circle. We're like, oh, this is why this person has been, like, on my shit for the past couple years or the past couple months or whatever. Utilize those people being on your shit moments, because you don't get them very often. Sometimes you don't get them at all. And I'm just sharing that because the truth will hurt. The reality of whatever's going on in or out of your life will hurt you. And it could, I won't say bring you down, but it could kind of humble you a little bit. But you have to know that if it's coming from the right place, it doesn't matter. And that's something that, and I might have mentioned this or went into this kind of a tangent last week, but I'm sharing it just because it's just on my heart. We sometimes don't know where a person's mind may or may not be. And it happens. We've all been there. We've all gone down that road. But if you really can take that moment and be a bigger person and like step back and really look at what it's all about and realize that, God forbid, it ain't about you. It's a reason. Like something, it's a reason. God's plan. Nah, let me not do it. I did good. I ain't do no, like normally I would have threw it about 50 times, but I was being funny. I'm being silly now. There's a reason for people being in your life. And there's a reason for folks calling you out on your shit. Don't take that shit call to heart, or don't take that person being in your life. Don't take them for granted, because you never know what that person could be around for. And if, I usually do it in reverse. Like most of the time we say people in your life for a season and a reason. It's usually the seasons are going to last. The season might last for a long time, or the season might be a short season. But it could be a reason where they might have came and they might have went so fast that you didn't even realize that they weren't supposed to be around. Like there's one person to this day, they were in my life when I was working at that facility. They came back in my life and we were involved. Mistakes happened. Dumb shit went down. Eye-opening processes that occurred. And now it was like, okay, now I understand what I needed to learn from that. Wasn't the best way to learn, but I learned. And that was legit a reason. It was a true reason for me. And now with things being the way they have, like, I probably wouldn't be doing. I say this so many times, and I'm emphasizing this to you all now. I probably would not be doing podcasting if a lot of things were different. But we here, and we got a show, and it's been going phenomenal. Like 154 episodes in, and it's more shit coming. Like I am trying to tell y'all. Like I'm not just. I know I'm like throwing a lot of cursing and being unfiltered a little bit, but I'm trying to get my shit off. Like I just want y'all to know it's anytime someone tells me, hey, I'm listening to the show, hey, I appreciate what you share, yo, you hit some good points, any little tidbit that I hear of that, y'all know how that make me feel. Like it shows me that I'm doing something right. So I'm just saying thank y'all. Like I say thank you all the time, but I really am saying like thank y'all. Like every little small piece, bit, moment, opportunity helps. So just continue doing what y'all do. If you are looking to do something worthwhile for yourself, I'm here. Y'all know I ain't going nowhere. Let something crazy take me out, I ain't going nowhere. So thank y'all for tuning in. I always appreciate the love, support, the feedback. Anyone that's downloaded the show, like I check. I'm guilty. I don't take them to heart, but I check my numbers. I check and I look and I'm like, somebody was downloading. Somebody thought about me. Somebody prayed for me. For real though, I'm glad that I'm on y'all mind for real. Like to just take time and checking out the show whenever you can. But that being said, 154, capping it off. Next week will be lit. Each week will always lit, but it's gonna be some aftermath. I got a feeling some foolishness, some tomfoolery, buffoonery, derpiness is gonna happen after St. Patrick's Day. Just I don't know why, but anywho, as always, the past signing out. Y'all take it easy. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get any information specifically based on the shows, you can go to Spreaker.com/BrideTapePodcast or go to www.passpodcast.com. On both of those options, you do have the information related to what topics were talked about, the timestamps for the episode, as well as the specific links related to that specific story. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, The Past signing out. でもそんなんじゃダメ、もうそんなんじゃほら心は進化する